We're in Way Media.
Right, Mr. Walters?
You see that guy over there? Now, he's an actor. The guy on the phone, he's a prize fighter. Me, I'm a cab driver. I'm the only cab driver in this place.
Good evening and welcome to Night Mr. Walters, a taxi podcast. I'm HP, your co-host, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Father Malone. Father Malone, how are you this evening?
Bing.
So one of my favorite parts of this episode we're going to get into. It's we're talking Taxi Season 3, Episode 17, Bobby and the Critic, written by Barry Kemp and directed by the one and only James Burrows. Reminder, we're doing these shows in broadcast order and not in order of filming, of course. We opened Father Malone in the garage as Bobby.
Oh, no, we did not, sir. We opened on the goddamn golden hour, cabs coming out of the cab stand, B-roll footage that we've been seeing for how many years now?
Well, that's why I don't even take note of it. I just breeze through it because we've established over the past couple of seasons that I have no ability to remember what B-roll has been used and what hasn't.
It upsets me because later on we get a like a rope-a-dope. We get a B-roll we've seen 1,000 times, which immediately cuts to a whole new B-roll we've never seen before.
In this episode?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you'll have to hit me.
Yeah, when we
that.
get there.
Okay, cool. Yeah, remember that. So after this B-roll that we've seen probably 500 times, we're in the garage, as I said. Bobby is excitedly reading a newspaper ad for his one-man play, Charles Darwin Tonight.
Like Entertainment Tonight. Do you think Charles Darwin Tonight has an exclamation point at the end?
It just seems so emphatic. Charles Darwin Tonight.
It should just be called Darwin exclamation point.
That's what we call in the industry a punch-up. And that's fantastic, Father Malone. So just at that point, Tony runs in. He's got a big paper bag. He exclaims, "Food's here." And I think, Father Malone, we're meant to believe this is McDonald's without having any McDonald's iconography on the bag or anything because Tony...
No.
Well, here's why. Because first of all...
they weren't doing those prize things. McDonald's wasn't at the time.
Absolutely they were. Yeah, sure they were.
No.
Absolutely. Yeah, like the Monopoly game and all that.
I thought this was supposed to be just like a local place that was doing the thing. You're surmising that this was a McDonald's? There was no branding at all. It was just a big paper sack. Like you would think the props would have like put some fake logo on there or something.
They didn't put the iconography on there because it's like product placement. I don't think
no, a fake iconography. Put a fake label, Big Belly Burger or like fucking, Big Kahuna Burger. Why are they all big? Why are all the fake burgers big burgers? What's a good fake burger? What's a fake burger that you've always wanted to have?
I was going to say, what are the burgers they have in Pulp Fiction?
Those are the big
Kahuna
burgers. Those look pretty good, right?
Yeah, they look really good.
Is there a slice of pineapple on there, you figure?
Probably. Are you going to tell me now that that's a real chain in LA? And
oh, no. I understand that he has been approached multiple times to have that sort of made reality, but no, it's not real. I've had a burger very similar to what is described as a Big Kahuna burger. And of course, there are always like cookbooks and stuff out there with, like Bob's Burgers has an entire cookbook, like of every burger mentioned on the show.
Apparently, Father Malone, you're correct. The Monopoly McDonald's game did not begin until 1987. So I don't know, maybe I'm giving them too much credit. Maybe it is supposed to be like a local place that has these coupons. It just felt, when I think of fast food and games, I think of McDonald's, don't you?
Well, I don't necessarily think of a hamburger as fast food other than it is food that you can get fast. But if I see a hamburger, my initial thought isn't like a processed fucking burger you'd get from Burger King or McDonald's or anything. It would be like, even you go to a sub shop, you can get a burger. Like everywhere has a burger. So
sure,
he might have gone to Mario's for the burger, and Mario's is running a fucking a tie-in with a local clothier.
Yeah, let me turn this back on you then. We grew up in Massachusetts with our share of burger places and local restaurants like that. Can you ever remember a local joint having any kind of contest that they would package with your meal for takeout?
Ooh, I remember. I certainly remember certain raffle type things at like the Prince Pizza House in Saugus,
Okay. I remember that
the
place still
Leaning
there.
Tower of Spaghetti or whatever the fuck
Yeah.
that place was.
It's like Lenny Clark, I think, still performs there regularly.
What, like the Giggles Room or whatever the fuck?
Yeah, the Ha Ha Shack. I
Ha
don't
ha,
know.
Chuckle Hut.
You're probably right. It just made me think that it was some fast food place because they're usually the ones with the infrastructure to support one of these silly games.
Plus, the Cokes that he hands out are all glass bottle Cokes, and the burgers look delicious. So I didn't think this was a chain. I thought it was a local joint they were going to.
I did think that was weird that they actually have real glass Coke bottles that they're drinking with lunch. That was sort of odd. And you're probably right. They would have had, the wax cup with the straw in it if they went to McDonald's. So I don't know. Maybe you're right. Maybe I'm wrong. Tony explains that this restaurant has given him extra contest coupons. And then Latka gets curious and he asks what that means. And Alex explains that if you get two matching coupons, you win the prize. And to everyone's surprise, Latka has done this. He has won a men's wardrobe. And this we'll see this, the ramifications
It's a runner.
of this. It is, but it's like, I like it though.
It's great. Yeah, it's my favorite part of the episode, honestly.
There's not a lot of heavy lifting, but it's always reliable.
It's like the easiest, cheapest joke in the world, and it works every time.
Well, what it did was it's making me realize, and this is a little bit of a spoiler for the rest of the episode. Really, Andy Kaufman is a very, very gifted physical comedian in the vein of a Charlie Chaplin, I think, because he does a lot with very little, and it's very funny in this episode. So Latka has won this men's wardrobe, and Elaine asks if he's ever won anything else. And things get a little weird here, Father Malone.
Is it in the realm of Latka's home country and what the fuck goes on there? You think this is incredibly weird?
It's weird. It's not as perverse as some of the other things we've heard, but it's weird nevertheless. He says he won his country's lottery. The prize was a fly swatter. And Tony says to Latka, that's not much of a prize. And Latka, in true weirdo fashion, says he was a good worker and a very nice man. So he didn't win a fly swatter plastic thing that you use to kill flies.
No, he won a man who swats flies and apparently hangs around your house, which leads to the question, how many flies are invading Latka's house that he has a full-time fly swatter who works really hard? Like he's working really hard all day for swatting flies? You have too many flies. Latka, you live in a dump.
I still think this raises more questions than answers, I think, in a lot of ways.
Yeah, but it really makes me want to go to his country.
Bobby is eating his lunch with everybody. He's sitting by the coffee machine and he's bemoaning John Bowman's bad review of Ennui's Thieves Carnival. Now, first of all, I thought this was another made up thing, Thieves Carnival, but it is apparently a real play, Father Malone, that I did not want to look up any more information on. I just wanted to tell you that Thieves Carnival is a real thing. But apparently, this guy, John Bowman, is a critic in New York City.
He's one of those, he's a Rex Reed type. He's really mean.
He is.
He's really catty.
So Bobby goes on to exposition that Bowman is one of the biggest and worst critics in New York City. Bowman hates everything he sees. As Bobby puts it, he doesn't critique, he humiliates. Bobby gets so incensed by all of this, by this review, because apparently he knew one of the actors and he was singled out in a particularly cruel way. Bobby says she didn't deserve this. So he gets so mad that he decides to write a letter to the newspaper about what an asshole Bowman is. This, for some reason, we're going to see this throughout. This excites Tony to no end.
Like you wouldn't believe. Like he's like really encouraging of this. Like, yeah, fucking get him. Get him, Bobby.
It's as if he's looking for any way to destroy Bobby's career. He's like He's the devil on Bobby's shoulder, encouraging him to do this thing that's not good for his career.
I disagree. I think this is just his unbridled bloodlust raging. And like he recognizes that this is the equivalent for Bobby of Bobby getting in the ring and pummeling the Critic with his fists.
The promise of conflict gets his blood pumping, and he just can't help himself. So I think you have a point there, Father Malone.
I bet he was spitting in buckets moments later.
The cabbies help Bobby come up with descriptors for the letter, like slime ball.
Reprehensible.
Yeah. Alex and Elaine still they caution Bobby from sending the letter. But again, Tony is raring for Bobby to just torch his career in one fell swoop. Eventually, Bobby comes to his senses and realizes that he can't send a letter, not while he's a struggling young actor. He doesn't have the power. It could destroy his career.
Young.
It's kind of cruel, Father Malone. Come on now.
I was looking at Jeff Conway and he said young actor, and I was just like, get the fuck out of here. I will take him saying devilishly handsome actor on stage talking about me. Like, I'll accept that from him, but I won't get, no, you can't have young.
Well, how old do you think he was during this episode?
30s, 34, 35, full on adult. The guy who's about to be fired from a popular television series. That's what he looks like to me.
You're so cruel.
Which is the episode, because it had to be this season, where they just divvied up his parts and realized we don't really need Jeff Conway anymore, do we?
I don't know that it was this season, but obviously next season is his final season with the show.
Oh, okay. I'm misguided here because I thought this was his last season.
No, he does. I think he appears in maybe a third to half of next season's episodes, and we will see this, not to get ahead of ourselves, but there is an actual farewell episode for Bobby.
Wow. Okay. That's rare.
So it's not as if he's just written out and kind of erased gradually. He actually gets his final moment with the rest of the cast, but we'll get there.
He becomes a porno actor and we never see him again.
His name is Dirk Diggler. Bobby crumples up the letter, tosses it right in the garbage can. At that point, Louie calls the cabbies for their cabs, and they all file out. And once they're gone, Louie saunters over to the garbage can and pulls the letter out. He has a brief crisis of conscience where he tries to throw it back in the garbage can, but his hand won't let it go. And he kind of does this thing.
That bit of mischief is stuck to him, damn it.
That's right. He can't help himself. So he's decided to send it. We fade back into the garage where Latka jogs in wearing a purple velvet jogging suit. This is the first of his menswear that he's worn.
Love it. I love that he's jogging in place. I love that he's really feeling his clothing.
He comes in. This incenses Louie for some reason, who goes over to Latka and he demands that Latka take it off. Latka unzips the tracksuit, takes it off, and reveals that underneath he's wearing a gray three-piece suit and tie. And he just goes back to work with this hoity-toity look on his face. He kind of does this little arched eyebrow thing and goes to work.
That made me think that the innovation that they had going over there at the Chippendales organization hadn't filtered out to the rest of America yet, because he has to pull off the pants, like he has to pull them down and then step out of them. Whereas as soon as he pulled the top off, I thought, oh, you're just going to, pull the pants and the snaps are all going to pull off on the sides. Nope. It was just kind of slow and sad.
The full Monty, right? Where you just whip it off and it just unsnaps. Yeah. I think we all know that image. Alex walks in and asks the other cabbies if they read today's newspaper yet. By the way, just a little side note, I think it's very quaint that this is still a time where we had a monoculture and everybody is reading that's how you got your news, is through the newspaper or the 6 o'clock news or the 10 o'clock news or the 11 o'clock news. Back then, the newspaper was king. I remember even as a child, every now and again, you'd get your name in the newspaper because, someone won a spelling bee at school or somebody did some kind of like charitable thing. It was a big deal to get your name and picture sometimes in the newspaper. You'd clip it out. Your parents.
My class went to the State House when we were in 8th grade, 7th grade, and we had our picture in the Boston Globe.
Really, the paper record, you got it in the Boston
Yes, we were
Globe.
on the steps of the State House.
That's impressive, though. You remember that?
Well, I remember it in particular because one of my best friends in the world was standing in front of me on the steps, which is an inopportune place to be because I'm going to give you bunny ears because we're in seventh grade. And I remember once I went over to his house, and on the refrigerator, his mother had cut out the picture from the globe and magneted it to the refrigerator, and I could see that he had gone in with a magic marker and blotted out my fingers. Felt so bad. I still feel bad about it.
Yeah, I can see you. You feel terrible. You're
No,
smiling.
I'm smiling about it now because it's kind of a cherished memory, and I'm thinking of my friend. But yes, I felt bad as soon as I saw. See, I'm telling a humorous story that I found the thing on his refrigerator, but the full import of it was driven home to me there. That like it would have been nice for him to be able to hang that on his refrigerator without bunny ears and be proud of his visit to the state house that day.
The point is that the newspaper used to be a bigger deal. Now, I'm not talking about like the death of print. I'm just saying everybody got the newspaper delivered to their house every day, and the big Boston Sunday Globe with the funnies and the arts and entertainment section. It used to be a big thing. Anyway, Alex is asking anybody if they read today's newspaper, and Alex reveals to the rest of the cabbies that Bobby did send the letter into the newspaper. And they all agree that, hey, it took a lot of courage for Bobby to send
Oh my
the letter.
God, it gets so sitcom-y here.
It is a little sitcom because they all go, yeah, it took a lot of guts. And then they think for a second and they go, Bobby didn't send that letter in. Because they all realize that he's gutless. I mean, he would never have done that.
And then Elaine becomes fucking Nancy Drew and is like, oh, well, then somebody must have taken it out of the thing and sent it in. Who could have done that?
But to his credit, Louie cops to it almost immediately. He rings the little bell and he goes, ding. And he kind of raises his hands like, yep, it's me.
This is the worst thing he's ever done, by the way.
Every time you think Louie has hit the bottom of what he's capable of, he one-ups himself. So it's this odd thing where it's Danny DeVito, so he's always lovable to a degree, but it becomes so difficult to not excuse, but at least accept what he's done, because he gets so many chances to redeem himself and to apologize and to make things right, and it's like he can't help himself. But this is bad.
I was certainly, I was shocked at the level of deceit and reckless abandon with another's entire livelihood potentially.
An angry Bobby walks in he asks to speak to Louie. Louie retreats into the cage and he crows about how he'll never get in. Doesn't he remember Alex tearing the front part of the cage in a fit of rage back in season 1?
Apparently the writers don't, because what's about to happen is totally unnecessary. Bobby knows Rieger. Rieger can get him.
Bobby reemerges with a blowtorch and a welder's helmet, and he screams to everybody, "I'm gonna get him! Don't try to stop me!" And he lights the thing. He's got one of those lighter things that we used to use for Bunsen burners back in high school.
It's called a striker.
A striker, yeah. So he's about to work on this door with this blowtorch.
Just kick it in.
I don't remember if it was this season or another season. There's one episode, Father Malone, where Louie, they're trying to track him down, and he ends up going through some weird secret passage in the garage, and he intimates that that's only the tip of the iceberg on all the secrets that he knows in the garage. So he could probably figure out a way to get away if he had to.
I would like to have seen that in action.
Tony tells Bobby that he's got a phone call. It's his agent. Bobby pauses his blowtorching while he answers the phone.
It's pretty great though. His reaction is like, wait, like,
my agent's calling me.
It's a genuine bit of shock. Yeah.
So it turns out that the agent is calling to congratulate Bobby on sending the letter. And Bobby goes through this whole turnaround because he picks up the phone and he's ready to be apologetic about the letter and explain. But then through the conversation, the one-sided part that you hear Bobby engaged in, he actually is relieved because the agent says that other people are calling him and saying how great it was that he stood up to this terrible critic. Louie follows up by admitting that his little scheme backfired. He's been taking congratulatory messages all morning from people like the Actors Union, a repertory company calls up to congratulate Bobby. All these people are calling to say, right on, Bobby. And this obviously delights Bobby to no end. The final message is from the play's producer, that Charles Darwin Tonight play that we talked about.
Exclamation point.
He says that the tickets for the show, for tonight's show, have been selling like crazy. They also mentioned that there's a special VIP that asked for tickets tonight just to see Bobby. And Bobby is beside himself. He's so excited. And he begs Louie to tell him who it is, and Louie is playing all coy. It's a very, very funny little bit with Louie. Louie essentially, he goads him into playing charades so that he can figure out who this VIP is. The ultimate answer, I'm not going to go through the whole charade of talking about charades, but basically he charades John Bowman. That little bing from the early is Louie miming an arrow being shot. John Bowman, this critic that is so feared in New York that Bobby knew would be incensed at the very least by this letter and is probably coming to bury him, essentially. Bobby's delight turns to abject horror almost immediately as we fade to commercial.
We knew this was coming.
Well, it wouldn't be much of a show if we didn't have a little bit of...
No, this is fine. No, this is fine. I'm not deriding this. That this is where the plot needs to go, because it obviously needed to go. I just think it was a little silly that he goes, oh, special VIP, and he didn't go, oh, fuck, it's John Bowman, isn't it? Because that, like, you know what I mean? Like, Elaine eventually pipes up and is like, Bowman, when he can't figure out the charade, but like, she already knew.
We can make the case that Bobby was so blinded by his excitement.
This is true. He just received a bunch of telegrams or messages from people. He said, these are a lot of famous people. Like, we don't even... Anyway.
It could be anybody. It could be Stephen Sondheim, for all we know. It could be like, any of these shining lights of Broadway. So I don't fault him for not figuring it out, immediately. He might have when the first word was John. That should have given him the biggest clue. But nevertheless, by the way, this next scene is my favorite part of this whole episode.
Is this the play?
Yes. I love this part.
Which, by the way, includes the bit of B-roll. That's the transition that gets us there. They give us their standard Times Square shot, but as it's zooming in, it immediately smash cuts to this like random POV of a taxi driver barreling down the streets of New York City that we have not seen before.
So we cut to a backstage view of a theater as Bobby is performing this Charles Darwin Tonight play. Now, I got to say, we've extolled the virtues of the set decorators, the set team. We've given them some knocks at some of the more lazy sets that we've seen. I got to say, this is a return to greatness. This is a fantastic set. What you have effectively is look, you and I, Father Malone, we did some work in high school for the High School Drama Guild.
Yeah, right? We're those people.
We're those people. It would surprise to anyone listening to this. This looked totally believable to me. And it's not an easy set to pull off because it's kind of a 3/4 view where you see in the background the stage with a curtain where we come in and Bobby's performing. But you also, the larger portion of this is the backstage effectively, where he's got a little makeup thing set up to do his makeup. There's a guy there, an old guy whose job it is to open and lower the curtain. There's ropes, there's lights everywhere. It looks so believable to me. And so, I don't know, I loved how solid it all looked to me. What did you think?
I thought the perspective that they picked was genius because basically they have a stage left. So we're just in the wing. And so we have like a close-up of Rieger sort of standing backstage watching, and we can see Bobby performing, but we can't see the audience because he's in profile. But then when he comes off stage, they very cleverly would just keep dollying back, and there's the dressing room.
It's so economical, and it all works really well. So Bobby is out there. It's a one-man play. So he's finishing his monologue as the young Charles Darwin to applause, and one very conspicuous gale of laughter. And this will kind of come back.
I love this.
In this, I really loved it. Bobby walks off stage. He has to make this lame announcement.
Coffee will be served in the lobby during the intermission. He like tries to disguise his voice too. So, I mean, it's so crazy because he's been talking for, probably 45 minutes at this point straight. And like now he has to do the announcement.
And I think anybody who's gone to a community theater production, something along these lines, can relate because it's cheesy. Like the star doing the public service announcement, it's ridiculous. Alex is very complimentary of his performance, but Bobby is in a very, very dark mood. Bobby says the play stinks and he stinks. What's more, he's certain that John Bowman is going to have a field day with this whole performance. Then Latka walks backstage, and now he's wearing a captain's outfit that makes him look.
God.
He looks like Judge Smale's kid from Caddyshack, doesn't he?
Absolutely. He's ready for the yacht, man. He's ready to dive into your favorite genre of music.
He's ready for yacht rock. He's got the captain's hat. He's got a blazer. I think he has a turtleneck underneath that.
And an ascot.
Latka compliments Bobby on the show and tells him the length of the show is just right. You know, he says that when people tell me that the show is too long, I say it's not too long because it was just perfect. Bobby corrects him by saying, well, there's a second act, Latka.
Not for me, there isn't.
It's so funny. He just gets out of there. Look, I love the Latka-centric episodes where he's the main focus, and we're on the verge of quintessential Latka, another couple of episodes. But when you have him here, like sort of sprinkled here and there, like a spice, he's brilliant. Because the whole joke is mainly that he's got all these different outfits that he keeps changing into, and what's he going to look like next? But my God, Andy Kaufman is just so funny.
Yeah,
I just love him.
I agree. I think that's the secret formula. It's have him throughout an episode, but not the thrust of the episode. Like if he's not involved in the B plot, he is the B plot, then it's good. And it's just him sort of it's almost him stepping outside and just commenting on the show, which it might have been preferable for the final couple seasons.
An excited Tony at this point comes backstage to tell Bobby, it's going great. Jim laughed through the whole first act, which explains the laughter that we heard. It's actually, when you listen to it back, it's actually Christopher Lloyd laughing. You can hear Jim. Bobby thanks them both, but he says he knows a bomb when he sees one. Then Jim comes backstage. He's gleeful. Jim is laughing, and he calls his Charles Darwin loony, which is so Christopher Lloyd. You can almost hear Doc Brown when he says it.
This guy, this crazy guy.
This guy over here. Bobby thanks him and he excuses himself to go get ready for Act 2, where
I love this. I love watching an actor put on their own makeup, like putting on old age makeup.
yeah, because the next act is clearly the aged Charles Darwin, so he's got to put on a bald cap.
You remember
and
Yankee Doodle Dandy with James Cagney? When he meets his future wife, she comes backstage to get advice from him because she wants to break in, but she's just seen him in a performance where he's been an old man, and she thinks he's an old man, and she's getting wise advice from him, and like he's just the whole time like hamming it up until he stands up and starts dancing like a fucking crazy man. She's like, "No, you'll hurt yourself." Anyway, love that.
As Bobby's getting ready for Act 2, Jim asks to borrow his comb and gets it stuck in his hair. I thought it was actually rather realistic. It's one of these black plastic combs that we all had as kids, you know, and he's combing his hair back and it gets stuck. And it's very effective because his hair looks so bushy and unkempt.
HP, to be fair, any one of us could have done that joke. You just jam the thing in and then go, oh, and pull yourself around.
We could have. But it wouldn't have been nearly as funny as Jim, because what happened, he gets it stuck. Bobby says, yeah, why don't you keep it? And he goes, okay. And he leaves it there. But he does this thing where before he leaves, he checks himself in the mirror one more time and almost like gives himself a thumbs up. Like, this looks pretty good. And then he goes off. Bobby ends by telling Alex this is the worst night of his entire life. Again, Alex does his best to buck him up. And Bobby takes the stage again. And when he gets out there, what does he hear? Another gale of Jim laughter as we fade out to Mario's.
You would think, by the way, in a situation like that, like one audience member can actually turn the tide on occasion. If he, because he keeps saying what a terrible play it is, and they have a sort of commiseration here in the final scene about how bad the play is, but he's good in it. But if somebody was laughing at all the corny bullshit going on, you could get it's like the producers, for God's sake. They're serious? Oh, this is ridiculous.
We cut to Mario's and all the cabbies are gathered there trying to make Bobby feel better. By the way, Latka is now dressed as a cowboy.
Oh my God, it's the best. Like it's such a fucking cherry on the Sunday of Latka's plot here.
But what that means is because we're meant to believe that this is that evening. Like they're going for drinks at Mario's after his final show of the night,
Yeah.
after he's given this performance. Latka has left the show dressed as a yachtsman.
No, he
and now
left earlier, remember? He didn't stay for Act 2. So he went home and got changed and then met them for drinks afterwards.
So he's just trying to blow through this whole men's wardrobe. Every possible outfit that he can drum up, he's going for it.
I wish they had continued this. I know the season's only 2 more episodes. I wish they had carried it over.
Not that this episode is in desperate need of laughs, but it's a fun little thread that runs through it that's not heavy lifting, but it's funny nonetheless.
It could have been a good runner for an entire season, honestly. If he won in the first episode, and then every episode he's in some different weirdo outfit, and they never make reference of it again.
Bobby is still convinced that Bowman's going to tear him to shreds, and wouldn't you know it? Just at that point, a portly gentleman, walks in from outside, and Bobby notices him. It's John Bowman. He has come to Mario's, apparently looking for Bobby. He actually goes over to Tommy, your pal and mine, TJ
Castronova, yeah.
And you see that he's basically told him, oh, you know, we're looking for Bobby. Oh, he's over there. And he points.
Bowman, by the way, played by John Harkin, character actor, who I know primarily from a 1982 CBS television movie called Rascals and Robbers, The Secret Adventures of Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn, starring Anthony Michael Hall as Huckleberry Finn. And he played Mr. Clinch in that. But John Harkin was also the other thing I mainly remember, and because I saw it 3 times in 3 different fucking schools, was an American masterpiece presentation of The Crucible from 1968 with George C. Scott and Colleen Dewhurst, and he plays Judge Hathorne in that, the famous hanging judge. Or
he was very familiar to me. I looked up his IMDb, but nothing jumped out at me. But I gotta say, before we even get into the scene with him, he's very good in this.
He's great here.
He's supremely believable as this self-important critic. So he goes over to Bobby and asks to speak to him privately, and they walk over to the bar. Bowman admits to Bobby that he went to the play tonight expecting to hate everything he saw. But although the play itself was terrible, Bowman actually thought Bobby's performance was terrific. Bowman pulls out a piece of paper from his suit jacket and says, it's all there in my review. And he puts it down, gives it to Bobby. Bobby reads it and is overjoyed by the positive write-up of the performance. It was something to the effect of, this young actor, Bobby Wheeler, gives me hope for the future of the American theatrical experience. It's a glowing review.
Yeah, and the future of off-off-Broadway, which he had written off.
Bobby is humbled by this, and he apologizes for what he said in the letter. Bobby says people will recognize your integrity when they read the review in the morning. But Bowman says, well, too bad it's not coming out in the newspaper, and proceeds to rip it to shreds right in front of Bobby, to his horror. Bowman says Bobby should have ripped up the letter that he sent to the newspaper just like this. Bowman's reasoning, and this is actually rather diabolical, Bowman reasons that a bad review would make Bobby a hero. A good review would make Bobby a star. But no review will keep Bobby anonymous and struggling for the rest of his life.
In church basements, in off-Broadway theaters.
It's crushing what he says to him. And he just sort of drops the pieces of the review on the ground. Now, at this point, Bowman is gleeful.
This is the best part. His reaction to him being called like this cruel man. Like, that's the cruelest thing I've ever seen. Thank you.
It's so great because that's what Bobby says. He says, look, you came all the way down here with this review just to tear it up in my face. That's the cruelest thing I've ever seen. And Bowman, he almost blushes and gets kind of bashful, like, yeah, I guess it is.
When he conceived it, he thought, wow, that's the cruelest thing I've ever done. And then Bobby says it back to him. Like, oh, you don't say. Oh, I thought so. I didn't want to say it out loud, but.
To say that he's happy is not quite enough. He's almost embarrassed by how good the whole thing turned
Now,
out for him.
let's be honest, HP. He did not write that review after the fact. He came with that folded up in his pocket.
Oh, you think he already had this plan in place before he ever went?
Absolutely. I think he didn't. That is not a review of the performance he saw, if he even saw the performance.
I guess I never thought of that possibility. You're not wrong, but here's the thing. What if he had gone to the play and it was actually as bad or worse than he expected it to be? Wouldn't he then have had all the license in the world to write a bad review of the
Absolutely.
play?
I just think that this type of human, as gleeful as he is when he hands it over, had this in as soon as he read that fucking letter in the paper, he thought, I'm going to go and build up his fucking hopes and take them away.
That actually makes it seem even crueler because he already knew it was a preconceived, notion right from the start that he was going to try to bury this poor actor. Good call, Father Malone.
And by the way, here's what Bobby should have done in response. Instead of groveling on the floor and trying to, and the horrible ADR line of, I can tape it back together.
It's bad.
He should have had in his pocket the stack of notes from all the famous people who all hate this critic and go, oh, here are some other notices I received that will also not be in the paper. Or they might be. Could have been some revenge right there.
As you said, Bobby scrambles on the ground to try and piece the pieces of the review back together. They loop it poorly into him saying, oh, I can tape it, I can fix it. But he comes to his senses.
What am I doing here? Yeah. Oh, what am I doing? It turns into a Rod Serling episode.
That's right. I'm a man.
I'm a man.
Did you see that?
You can force anonymity on me, but you can't take away my manhood. Not here. Not at Mario's. This is where I live. This is where I thrive.
He's groveling, and then he comes to his senses, and he says, "What am I doing? I'm rooting around in the beer and the dirt and the grime for what? The only thing that matters is how I felt about my own performance." And Bowman, I think, just kind of shakes his head and leaves the bar. The other cabbies come over to him and they cheer him, except for Jim, who reminds Bobby that, hey, he thought he stunk. End of episode. Fade to commercial.
Button. That's a good button, actually. Because he kept saying how terrible I was. He was like, I don't care what you have to. All that matters is what I think. Well, you think you're terrible.
If he's being honest, he thought he was terrible. And based on what we saw of the little bit of the performance we saw, he probably was terrible. The play itself is probably terrible. So that's the end of the episode. Now, Father Malone, we're going to talk about yellow lights.
What does a yellow light mean?
Reminder, we score on a scale of 1 to 5 yellow lights. 1 is the worst Taxi episode, and 5 is the best Taxi episode. And as is our custom, throw it to you, sir. What do you give Bobby and the Critic?
Believe it or not, I'm giving this 4 yellow lights.
Get the fuck out of here. Are you serious?
Yeah.
Wow. I was convinced this was going to be one of those weeks where you give it 1 or 2 and then I go the reverse route. What is it about this that caught your fancy?
At its heart, this is my least favorite type of episode. It's an aspirational episode. It's a dreams dashed episode. And I didn't care. I enjoyed it thoroughly. I knew it was an aspirational episode as soon as we saw Bobby with a newspaper in his hand talking about his starring role. I'm like, okay, well, Bobby's going to try and get out of the garage and he's going to fail at the end. And by the end, I didn't care because the rest of the business of the episode was so funny and everyone was so charming. And then on top of that, you got Latka. So, and I liked John Harkin as this even more villainous than Louie De Palma character. Like
I thought you meant the judge from The Crucible, even more villainous than that.
Well, yeah, but more than De Palma. In fact, I think Louie De Palma and John Bowman would probably get on like a house on fire.
Probably. I agree with you. I gave this 4 yellow lights as well. This is a rare Bobby episode, especially in the latter part of season 3 going into season 4. But it's very rewatchable. This is an episode that I watch all the time. This is one of my favorites, in fact. I love, as I said, the scene that took place backstage. I thought it was staged and performed very well. A lot of laughs. Latka is the cherry on top of the sundae. And I ultimately like you, I appreciate that it didn't have any kind of typical happy ending. Bobby is still going to be that same struggling actor. Like, as much as he tries to pump himself up to say, all that matters is how I thought of the performance. And Jim reminds him correctly that, hey, you said you stunk. So it kind of casts
but at the same time, he is taking away from this that stack of messages from people who were supportive of him, and he read those guys' words, even if it's my thing where he planned it cruelly beforehand. It's still nice to have heard what he heard from that critic. And if it's more in line what you were thinking, which is probably more likely, that he left the theater, wrote that, and meant it, and then thought, oh, this is the most cruel thing ever, and then dropped the boom on him. That's,
Sure. But either way, there's the like you said, the business in this episode is all really good. Everything works. It's not necessarily the most ensemble. Like, this isn't like Artwork, which is one of my top 3 Taxi episodes, where literally all of the cabbies get really fun stuff to do. But this is just, it moves. It's not really slow. It's great. 4 yellow lights from me, 4 from Father Malone. That's going to do it for this episode. Father Malone, where can the folks find you when you're not clocked into the garage?
Well, check me out at Midnight Viewing. We just had our 200th episode just
Woo!
the other day. Yeah. So
Congrats.
check us. Thank you. So check us out at Midnight Viewing. Every Monday, we do Father Malone's Weekly Roundup. Every Friday, we either do a horror anthology like Tales from the Dark Side or a fest. That is a themed group of episodes that I do with my pal HP here. We are finishing up Yautja Fest, which is the Predator movies. Next week, we're going to have a on-date arrival episode of the new Predator Badlands. Come listen.
Great stuff. Father Malone's podcast is a lot to do with horror and so forth, but Yautja Fest is kind of stepping aside that to be a little more sci-fi. So if you're not that into horror, give Yautja Fest a try.
Yeah, and if you're not into horror sci-fi, well, just wait, because the fucking following week we're starting Star Trek Fest.
Ooh. We're busy. We're nothing if not busy, Father Malone. So for myself, in addition to Night Mr. Walters, I host the Noise Junkies podcast. Check that out. Also, I have a Bandcamp site, hpmusicplace.bandcamp.com. So thanks again for listening, folks. Please feel free to subscribe to the podcast, write a review, or rate us. We'd love to hear from you. In fact, my email address is hpmusicplace@gmail.com. For Father Malone and myself, thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Night, Mr. Walters.